Captain Jake Morrison walked onto the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiance. The coffee in his hand was still hot and the morning shift was just beginning. He had no idea that this day would change everything for humanity. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Lisa Park, the communications officer. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and quick fingers that danced across her control panel. "There are massive energy readings coming from the edge of the system." Jake set down his coffee and moved to the main screen. Space looked normal to him, just stars and empty darkness. But the instruments were telling a different story. Numbers were climbing fast, showing energy levels that should not exist. "What kind of energy?" Jake asked. "Unknown, sir," said Ryan Bell from the engineering station. Ryan was a big man with rough hands and 30 years of experience fixing things that should not be fixable. "The computer cannot match it to anything in our database." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. They were far from Earth, exploring new star systems at the edge of human space. If something went wrong here, no one would come to help them. The nearest human ship was months away. "Range?" Jake asked. 2 million kilometers and closing, Lisa said. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the worry underneath. On the other side of space, Admiral Zethkar was having his own problems. The alien commander stood 8 feet tall with blue skin and 4 arms. He had been in charge of the Third Fleet for 40 years and nothing surprised him anymore. Until today. "Report," Zethkar said to his science officer. "Unknown vessel, Admiral," the officer replied. "The design is completely foreign. We have no records of this ship type in our databases." Zethkar looked at the image on his screen. The human ship was small, maybe 1/10 the size of his flagship. But something about it made him uneasy. The hull was smooth and curved in ways that made no sense. The materials were wrong. The energy signature was impossible. "Have we contacted them?" Zethkar asked. "We tried, sir. No response on any frequency." The Admiral moved his 4 hands across different controls. The Galactic Empire had ruled space for 3,000 years. They knew every ship design, every species, every type of technology. But this vessel was completely unknown. "Send a patrol to investigate," Zethkar ordered. "But be careful. We do not know what we are dealing with." Back on the Defiance, Jake watched 3 massive ships appear on his screen. Each one was bigger than anything humans had ever built. They moved with smooth precision like sharks in deep water. "Captain," said Alex Stone, the tactical officer, "those ships have enough firepower to destroy a planet." Alex was a quiet man who spoke only when necessary. He had served in the Earth Defense Force before joining the exploration program. Jake trusted his judgment completely. "Are they hostile?" Jake asked. "Unknown, sir. They're not targeting us, but their weapons are active." Jake made a decision that would affect all of humanity. "Lisa, open a channel." "All frequencies." "Channel open, sir." Jake cleared his throat. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Defiance. We come in peace and mean no harm. Please respond." The words traveled through space at the speed of light. On the Imperial flagship, the communications officer jumped when the message came through. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel." "Put it through." Zethkar listened to the strange sounds. The language was completely unknown, but there was something about the tone that suggested intelligence. More than that, the transmission was using basic radio waves, a primitive but effective technology. "Can we translate it?" Zethkar asked. "Working on it, sir. The computer is analyzing speech patterns and mathematical constants." Dr. Elena Rodriguez was working frantically on the Defiance. As the ship's expert on alien life, she was trying to figure out what they were dealing with. The problem was that they had never actually met any aliens before. "Captain," she said, "these ships are using technology we don't understand, but the good news is that they haven't attacked us." Elena was a small woman with dark skin and bright eyes. She had spent her whole career studying the possibility of alien life. Now she was face to face with it. "What do you recommend?" Jake asked. "Keep talking. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already." The translation computer on the Imperial ship was making progress. Basic mathematical concepts were universal, and the human language was starting to make sense. "Admiral," the communications officer said, "we have a partial translation. They claim to come from a place called Earth. They say they mean no harm." Zethkar thought about this. In 3,000 years, the Empire had encountered hundreds of intelligent species, but they had found them all within the known galaxy. This ship came from a direction where no intelligent life should exist. "Send a response," Zethkar said. Tell them we are the Galactic Empire. Ask them to identify themselves and state their purpose. The message came back to the Defiance in the same strange language. Lisa worked with the computer to translate it. Captain, they say they are something called the Galactic Empire. They want to know who we are and why we're here. Jake felt his heart beating faster. A galactic empire meant thousands, maybe millions of worlds. Humanity was just one planet with a few small colonies. They were completely outmatched. Tell them we are explorers from Earth, Jake said. We're looking for new worlds and new life. The response caused confusion on the Imperial ship. Explorers? The concept was almost unknown in Imperial space. For thousands of years, the Empire had controlled everything. There was nothing left to explore. Admiral, the science officer said, their ship design suggests they developed space travel independently. The technology is completely different from ours. This was impossible. The Empire had spread across the galaxy using a specific type of faster-than-light drive. Every known species used the same basic principles. But this human ship was different. Different how? Zethkar asked. They appear to be using quantum mechanics in ways we abandoned as impossible centuries ago. Their ship is much smaller than ours, but the energy readings suggest it's extremely powerful. Zethkar made a decision that would change the galaxy. Prepare a boarding party, but make it diplomatic, not military. I want to meet these humans. On the Defiance, Jake watched the alien ships move closer. His crew was nervous, but they trusted him. Whatever happened next would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. Captain, Lisa said, they're requesting permission to come aboard. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were far from home, facing the unknown. But they were human, and humans had always been good at adapting to impossible situations. Tell them yes, Jake said, but make it clear that we expect the same courtesy in return. The message went out, and both ships began preparing for humanity's first contact with a galactic civilization. Neither side knew what to expect, but both understood that everything was about to change. The alien shuttle was nothing like anything humans had ever seen. It moved without engines, floating through space like it was swimming through water. Jake Morrison watched it approach through the docking bay windows, feeling nervous and excited at the same time. Atmosphere is compatible, reported Dr. Elena Rodriguez, checking her readings. They breathe oxygen just like us, though the mixture is slightly different. The shuttle landed with barely a sound. Its hull was smooth and dark with no visible seams or joints. Jake wondered how it was built and how it worked. Human ships were full of bolts and welds and obvious machinery. This looked like it had been grown rather than built. Remember, Jake told his crew, we represent all of humanity today. Whatever these aliens think of us will determine how they treat our entire species. The shuttle door opened without any visible mechanism. 3 figures stepped out, and Jake got his first close look at members of the Galactic Empire. Admiral Zethkar was impressive even by alien standards. He stood 8 feet tall with blue skin that had a metallic shine. His forearms moved independently, and his large eyes took in everything around him. Behind him came 2 other aliens of different species. One looked like a walking tree with silver bark. The other was small and round, floating a few inches off the ground. Captain Morrison, Zethkar said in heavily accented but understandable English, I am Admiral Zethkar of the 3rd Imperial Fleet. Thank you for allowing us aboard your vessel. Jake stepped forward and offered his hand. After a moment of confusion, Zethkar extended one of his 4 hands and shook it. The alien's skin felt warm and slightly rough. Welcome aboard the Defiance, Jake said. This is Dr. Elena Rodriguez, our science officer, and Commander Alex Stone, our tactical officer. Zethkar's large eyes studied the humans carefully. Fascinating. You appear to be a remarkably young species. How long have you had space travel? About 200 years, Elena answered, though we only developed faster-than-light travel about 50 years ago. The floating alien made a sound that might have been surprise. Zethkar's eyes grew even larger. 50 years? Zethkar repeated. And you have already reached this sector? Impressive. Most species take centuries to travel such distances. Jake felt a small surge of pride. Humans might be newcomers to space, but they were fast learners. Perhaps you could show us your ship, the tree-like alien asked. Its voice sounded like wind through leaves. We are very curious about your technology. Jake looked at Alex, who gave a small nod. Of course, though I should warn you, our technology might seem primitive compared to yours. Zethkar made a gesture that might have been a smile. Captain, Nothing about your vessel appears primitive. They started the tour in the engine room. Ryan Bell was waiting for them, his hands covered in grease and his face worried. He had been working for hours to make everything look presentable. "This is our quantum drive core," Ryan explained, pointing to a device that hummed with barely contained energy. "It manipulates space-time to create a bubble around the ship." The aliens gathered around the drive, their instruments beeping and clicking. The floating alien spun in rapid circles, which Elena guessed meant excitement. "Remarkable," Zethkar said. "You have miniaturized technology that we use on a much larger scale. Our ships require massive gravity generators to achieve similar effects." "How massive?" Ryan asked. "Our smallest faster-than-light ship is 10 times the size of your vessel," the tree alien replied, "and much of that space is dedicated to the drive system." Ryan grinned. "Human engineering philosophy is different. We believe that smaller is usually better." They moved to the bridge next. Lisa Park was at her station, monitoring communications from the Imperial fleet. She looked nervous but determined. "This is our command center," Jake explained. "We run the entire ship from here with just 5 people." 5 people? Zethkar seemed shocked. "Our smallest ship requires a crew of 500. Alex stepped forward. "Humans have always been good at automation. We design our systems to work with minimal supervision." The aliens spent an hour examining the bridge controls. They were particularly interested in the computer systems, which seemed to fascinate and confuse them at the same time. "Your artificial intelligence is remarkable," the floating alien observed. "It appears to be both more advanced and more primitive than our own systems." "How so?" Helena asked. "It is more creative and adaptable than our computers," Zethkar explained. "But it also seems to lack the safeguards that prevent artificial minds from becoming independent." Jake and Elena exchanged glances. They had never thought about their computers becoming independent. It was an interesting and slightly scary idea. The tour continued to the weapon systems. Alex was reluctant to show too much, but Jake insisted on transparency. "These are our defensive systems," Alex said, showing them the pulse cannons and missile launchers, designed for protection against asteroids and unknown threats. The aliens studied the weapons with obvious interest. Their instruments beeped faster and the floating alien spun again. "Captain," Zethkar said carefully, "these weapons are far more advanced than you realize. The energy output suggests they could damage our ships." Alex tried to look surprised. "Really? We designed them for much smaller targets. Human weapons technology appears to follow the same philosophy as your engines," the tree alien observed. "Compact but extremely powerful." The final stop was the laboratory where Elena conducted her research. She showed them samples of Earth life and explained human biology. "Fascinating," Zethkar said, examining a flower under a microscope. "Your world appears to have remarkable biological diversity." "Earth has millions of different species," Elena explained. "We evolved in a very competitive environment." "That explains much about your technology," the floating alien said. "Competitive evolution produces innovative solutions." After the tour, they gathered in the ship's small conference room. Jake served coffee, which the aliens found interesting but undrinkable. "Captain Morrison," Zethkar began, "I must be honest with you. Your species presents us with a unique situation." Jake felt his stomach tighten. "How so?" "In 3,000 years of expansion, the Empire has never encountered a species like yours. Most civilizations we meet are either much less advanced or much more advanced than you appear to be." "What makes us different?" Elena asked. The tree alien answered. "Your technology is both primitive and sophisticated. You use basic materials to achieve effects that require exotic matter for us. You have somehow made quantum mechanics work on a large scale, something our scientists said was impossible. The Empire's technology has been stable for centuries," Zethkar continued. "We have perfected our methods and see no need for change. But your approach suggests there are other ways to solve the same problems." Jake began to understand. "You're saying we might be able to teach you new things?" "The possibility exists," the floating alien admitted. "But there are also dangers." "What kind of dangers?" Alex asked. Zethkar's forehands moved nervously. "There are factions within the Empire that see change as a threat. They believe that new technology could disrupt the stability we have maintained for millennia. And there are others," the tree alien added, "who believe that any species capable of independent technological development should be eliminated before they become too powerful." The conference room fell silent. Jake realized that humanity had stumbled into a much more complex situation than simple first contact. "What do you recommend?" Jake asked. "You must come with us to the Imperial capital," Zethkar said. "The Emperor himself must decide humanity's fate." Jake looked at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. Earth had no idea that any of this was happening. Humanity's future might be decided by aliens they had never met. "We'll need to contact our government," Jake said. "Of course," Zethkar agreed. "But understand that once the Empire knows about humanity, there will be no going back. Your species will become part of galactic politics whether you want to or not." Jake made the second decision that would change humanity's destiny. "Then we better make sure we make a good impression." The journey to the Imperial capital took 3 weeks. The Defiance traveled alongside Admiral Zethkar's massive flagship, dwarfed by the alien vessel like a minnow swimming next to a whale. During the trip, Jake Morrison learned more about the galaxy than humanity had discovered in 2 centuries of space exploration. The Empire controls over 10,000 worlds, Zethkar explained during one of their daily meetings. "We have kept peace in this galaxy for 3 millennia. Jake sat in the Admiral's quarters, which were enormous by human standards. The walls showed views of space, but Jake suspected they were actually screens rather than windows. Everything about Imperial technology seemed designed to impress rather than simply function. "How do you govern so many worlds?" Jake asked. "Carefully," Zethkar replied. "Each species maintains its own culture and customs, but all follow Imperial law. We provide protection and trade opportunities. In return, we receive resources and loyalty." It sounded reasonable to Jake, but he wondered what happened to species that did not want to join. He decided not to ask that question yet. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was having her own conversations with the Imperial scientists. She spent hours each day learning about alien biology and sharing information about Earth life. "Your world is unusual," explained Dr. Yinthara, the Empire's chief xenobiologist. She was a tall, thin alien with silver skin and 6 arms. "Most planets develop life that is either very simple or very complex. Earth appears to have both in abundance." "What do you mean?" Elena asked. "Simple bacteria alongside complex mammals, primitive reptiles, and advanced birds. Your planet supports an incredible range of evolutionary complexity." Elena had never thought about Earth that way. To humans, their world seemed normal. But apparently most planets were much less diverse. "This explains much about human psychology," Dr. Yinthara continued. "You evolved alongside many different types of life. This made you adaptable and creative." Meanwhile, Ryan Bell was working with Imperial engineers to understand their technology. The experience was both exciting and frustrating. "Your quantum drive should not work," insisted Chief Engineer Koltar. He was a massive alien who looked like a cross between a bear and a rock. "The quantum effects should cancel each other out." "But it does work," Ryan replied patiently. "We've been using this design for 30 years. Show me the calculations again." Ryan pulled up the equations on his tablet. The Imperial engineers gathered around, their various appendages moving in what Ryan had learned meant confusion. "You are using forbidden mathematics," another engineer said. "These equations were proven impossible during the Second Quantum War." "When was that?" Ryan asked. 2,000 years ago. The Empire banned these research methods after they caused the destruction of 3 star systems." Ryan felt a chill. Humans had been using mathematics that aliens considered too dangerous to study. Either humanity was incredibly lucky, or they had found something the Empire had missed. The Imperial capital of Thes Prime was unlike anything humans had imagined. The planet was completely covered by a single city that stretched from pole to pole. Buildings reached into space itself, connected by bridges that spanned continents. Traffic moved in 3 dimensions, with vehicles flying through the air in carefully controlled patterns. 50 billion people live here," Zethkar said as the Defiance approached the planet, representatives from every species in the Empire. Jake stared at the planet in wonder. The entire human population could fit in one small section of this single city. He was beginning to understand just how small humanity was in galactic terms. The Defiance was given a docking bay in the diplomatic quarter. As they landed, Jake saw ships from dozens of different species. Some were biological, looking more grown than built. Others were pure geometry, all angles and mathematical precision. A few seemed to be made of light itself. "The Emperor wishes to meet with you immediately," Zethkar announced. "This is very unusual. Most new species wait months for an audience." Jake had chosen his crew carefully for this meeting. Elena would handle scientific questions. Alex would deal with military concerns. Lisa would manage communications. He had also brought Chief Medical Officer Dr. Marcus Webb, a calm man who was good at reading people. The Imperial Palace was at the center of the city. It was not one building but thousands, connected by walkways and transport tubes. Jake's group rode in a vehicle that moved without touching the ground, traveling through tubes of pure energy. The Emperor is over 800 years old, Zethkar explained as they traveled. He has ruled for 4 centuries and seen the rise and fall of many species. Is he human-like? Elena asked. No species is human-like, Zethkar replied. Each evolved on different worlds under different conditions. But the Emperor is wise and fair. He will give humanity a chance to prove itself. The throne room was the size of a football stadium. The ceiling showed a real-time view of the galaxy, with imperial worlds marked in gold. Thousands of aliens filled the room, representing every species in the Empire. Emperor Valdris sat on a throne that floated in the center of the room. He was unlike any of the aliens they had met so far. His body seemed to be made of living crystal, reflecting and refracting light in impossible ways. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once. Humans of Earth, the Emperor said, you have traveled far to reach us. Welcome to the Galactic Empire. Jake stepped forward and bowed, hoping it was the right gesture. Your Majesty, thank you for seeing us. We come in peace, seeking friendship with all intelligent life. The Emperor's crystalline form shifted colors, cycling through blue and green and purple. Admiral Zethkar has told me remarkable things about your species. He says you have developed technology that should not exist. We have simply tried to solve problems in our own way, Jake replied. We did not know our methods were unusual. Show us, the Emperor commanded. Elena stepped forward with a small device Ryan had built during the journey. It was a miniature version of their quantum drive, designed to demonstrate the principles without being dangerous. This device manipulates quantum fields to create localized space-time distortions, Elena explained. She activated the device and a small area of space near it began to bend visibly. The alien audience made sounds of amazement and alarm. Several species Jake had never seen before moved closer to examine the effect. Impossible, whispered a voice from the crowd. The quantum fields should collapse, said another. Emperor Valdris himself seemed intrigued. His crystalline body pulsed with brighter light. How long did it take your species to develop this technology? About 50 years from initial theory to practical application, Elena answered. The throne room fell silent. Jake could feel thousands of alien eyes studying him and his crew. 50 years, the Emperor repeated. Our scientists spent 3 centuries trying to achieve similar effects before declaring it impossible. Supreme Commander Corvin stepped forward from the crowd. He was the intimidating alien covered in what looked like natural armor. Your Majesty, this technology could be extremely dangerous in the wrong hands. Are you suggesting humans are the wrong hands? Jake asked. Corvin's armored head turned toward Jake. I'm suggesting that any species capable of independent technological breakthrough represents a potential threat to imperial stability, or a potential benefit, countered Dr. Yinthera. Human innovation could solve problems we have struggled with for centuries. Jake realized he was witnessing a debate about humanity's future. Different factions within the Empire had different ideas about what to do with his species. The quantum drive is not our only innovation, Elena said boldly. We have also developed new approaches to artificial intelligence, materials science, and energy generation. This caused even more discussion among the aliens. Jake noticed that some seemed excited while others appeared worried. Emperor Valdris raised one crystalline appendage, and the room fell silent. Humans, you present us with a unique situation. Your species has achieved in decades what took us centuries. This suggests either remarkable intelligence or remarkable luck. We prefer to think of it as human stubbornness, Jake said, hoping humor would help. When something seems impossible, we try harder. Several aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Even the Emperor's crystal form seemed to brighten. Very well, the Emperor said. We will test this human stubbornness. There is a problem in the outer territories that our best scientists cannot solve. If humans can find a solution, we will welcome your species as equals in the Empire. And if we fail? Jake asked. The Emperor's light dimmed slightly. Then we will need to consider whether humanity represents too great a risk to galactic stability. Jake felt the weight of his entire species' future settling on his shoulders. Whatever this test was, the survival of humanity might depend on passing it. The problem in the outer territories was worse than anyone had told them. Jake Morrison stood in the Imperial War Room, looking at star charts that showed entire systems going dark. Red marks indicated worlds that had stopped communicating. Yellow marks showed systems under attack. The pattern was spreading toward the heart of the Empire. They called themselves the Void Hunters, explained General Sam Carter, a human who had been hastily promoted to liaison between Earth forces and the Imperial military. Sam was a tough woman with gray hair and scars from a dozen conflicts. She had arrived on Thys Prime just days after Jake, leading a small fleet of Earth's best warships. "We know almost nothing about them," continued Admiral Krendall, the Empire's top military strategist. He was a reptilian alien with scales that changed color with his mood. Right now, they were a worried shade of orange. They appeared at the edge of the galaxy 6 months ago. Their technology is beyond our understanding. Emperor Valdris himself was present at the briefing, his crystalline form hovering near the main display. "Our fleets cannot penetrate their defenses. Our weapons have no effect on their ships. They have conquered 47 worlds in 6 months. Jake studied the tactical displays. The Void Hunter ships were unlike anything in Imperial records. They seemed to absorb energy rather than reflect it. Imperial sensors could barely detect them, and Imperial weapons passed through them like they were not there. "What about their ships?" asked Dr. Elena Rodriguez. "Have you captured any wreckage?" "There is no wreckage," Admiral Krendall replied. "When their ships are destroyed, they simply vanish. No debris, no energy signature, nothing." Ryan Bell had been quiet during the briefing, but now he spoke up. "That sounds like quantum dissolution. The ships might not be entirely real in our dimension." Every alien in the room turned to look at him. Ryan shifted uncomfortably under their attention. "Explain," Emperor Valdris commanded. "Well," Ryan said, "if they're using quantum mechanics to exist partially outside normal space, they would be very hard to detect, and even harder to damage. Our weapons would miss because the target is not entirely there." "But that's impossible," protested Dr. Velthar, the Empire's chief physicist. "Quantum mechanics cannot work on such a large scale." "Can't they?" Elena asked. "Humans have been using large-scale quantum effects for 50 years. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If the Void Hunters were using advanced quantum technology, then only humans might be able to fight them effectively. "What do you need?" Emperor Valdris asked Jake. "Access to all your data on the enemy," Jake replied, "and permission to examine the battle sites." "Granted," the Emperor said immediately. "Admiral Zethkar will provide whatever support you require." 3 days later, the Defiance was heading toward the outer territories alongside a massive Imperial fleet. Jake had never seen so many warships in one place. Hundreds of vessels from dozens of species, all preparing for a battle they might not be able to win. "Captain," said Lisa Park from her communication station, "we're receiving reports from the front lines. The Void Hunters have attacked 3 more systems while we were traveling." Jake felt the pressure building. Every day they delayed meant more worlds falling to the enemy, but rushing into battle without understanding their opponent would be suicide. The first battle site was the Kepler system, where an entire Imperial fleet had been destroyed just weeks earlier. The Defiance approached carefully, scanning for any sign of enemy activity. "Energy readings are strange here," reported Dr. Marcus Webb from the science station. "Space itself seems damaged." Elena was running detailed scans with equipment she had modified during the journey. "Captain, I'm detecting quantum distortions throughout the system. It's like reality has been torn and poorly repaired." "Can you get more detailed readings?" Jake asked. "I need to get closer to the battle site," Elena replied. "But Captain, the quantum effects might be dangerous to our ship." Jake made another decision that would affect humanity's future. "Take us in." The Defiance moved slowly through the debris field where the Imperial fleet had died. Twisted metal and strange energy patterns marked the spots where mighty warships had been destroyed. "There," Elena said suddenly. "I'm reading quantum echoes. The enemy ships left traces in subspace." "What kind of traces?" asked Alex Stone from his tactical station. Quantum signatures. If I'm right, the Void Hunter ships exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They shift between realities to avoid damage. Ryan was studying the engine readings. Elena, if they're moving between dimensions, they must have incredible power sources. The energy requirements would be enormous. Unless, Elena said slowly, they're not generating the power themselves. Jake felt a cold realization forming. What do you mean? What if they're stealing energy from the dimensions they visit? Each time they phase out of our reality, they take a little bit of our universe with them. The implications were terrifying. If Elena was right, the Void Hunters were not just conquering worlds. They were slowly destroying reality itself. We need to test this theory, Jake said. Ryan, can you modify our sensors to detect dimensional shifting? Give me a few hours, Ryan replied. While Ryan worked, Jake called a meeting with the Imperial fleet commanders. Admiral Zethkar had assembled representatives from every major species in the Empire. Humans believe the enemy is using dimensional technology, Jake announced. If true, conventional weapons will be useless against them. Then how do we fight them? Asked Admiral Krendall. We use human technology, Elena said. Our quantum drives might be able to disrupt their dimensional phasing. A crystalline commander spoke up. Your technology is unproven in combat. So is everything else against this enemy, Alex pointed out. At least our technology works on quantum principles. Emperor Valdris had been listening through a communication link. Now his voice filled the conference room. What do you propose? Jake looked around at the assembled alien commanders. They represented civilizations thousands of years older than humanity, but today they were looking to humans for answers. We modify our weapons to work on quantum frequencies, Jake said. Instead of trying to destroy their ships, we disrupt the quantum fields that let them phase between dimensions. And if it doesn't work? Asked the crystalline commander. Then we're no worse off than we are now, Alex replied. The next few days were the busiest of Jake's life. Human and alien engineers worked together to modify weapon systems. Elena taught Imperial scientists about quantum mechanics while learning about their energy systems. Ryan worked around the clock to build devices that had never been tested. This is either brilliant or insane, Ryan muttered as he connected quantum field generators to Imperial plasma cannons. Sometimes those are the same thing, Jake replied. The test came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected a Void Hunter fleet approaching the border system of Vega 7. 50 enemy ships were moving toward a world with 8 billion people. All ships prepare for quantum weapon deployment, Jake announced to the Imperial fleet. Remember, we're trying to disrupt their dimensional phasing, not destroy them conventionally. The Defiance led the charge, its small size allowing it to move faster than the massive Imperial warships. Jake watched the tactical display as they approached the enemy fleet. Contact in 30 seconds, Lisa announced. Energy readings are off the charts, Elena reported. The enemy ships are definitely using dimensional technology. Fire, Jake ordered. The modified weapons fired not energy bolts, but quantum disruption fields. Where the fields intersected the Void Hunter ships, reality seemed to ripple and tear. Direct hit, Alex called out. Enemy ship is becoming solid. For the first time in months, Imperial weapons found their targets. Void Hunter ships that had been untouchable were suddenly vulnerable. The battle turned from desperate defense to coordinated attack. It's working, Admiral Zethkar announced over the communication system. The quantum disruption is forcing them into our dimension. But the Void Hunters adapted quickly. Their ships began moving in patterns that avoided the quantum fields. They started targeting the human modifications specifically. They know what we're doing, Elena warned. They're learning to counter our tactics. Jake realized that winning this battle was not enough. They needed to find the source of the Void Hunter technology and stop it permanently. But first they had to save Vega 7. All ships focus fire on the enemy flagship, Jake ordered. If we can disrupt their command structure, the rest might retreat. The combined human and Imperial fleet converged on the massive Void Hunter command ship. Quantum disruption fields and conventional weapons worked together for the first time in galactic history. The enemy flagship wavered between dimensions, caught between realities by the human technology. Then suddenly, it solidified completely and exploded in a brilliant flash of energy. The remaining Void Hunter ships immediately retreated, phasing out of normal space faster than the Imperial fleet could follow. "Victory," Admiral Zethkar announced. "The humans have found a way to fight the enemy." But Jake knew this was only the beginning. They had won one battle, but the war was far from over. And somewhere in the darkness between dimensions, the Void Hunters were planning their next move. The victory at Vega 7 changed everything. Within days, human quantum technology was being installed on Imperial ships throughout the galaxy. Jake Morrison found himself promoted to Admiral and placed in command of a joint human-alien task force. But the real work was just beginning. "The Void Hunters are regrouping," reported Dr. Elena Rodriguez during a strategy meeting aboard the new flagship UES Horizon. The ship was a marvel of combined human and Imperial technology, smaller than a traditional Imperial vessel, but more powerful than anything humans had built before. "Our intelligence suggests they're massing near the galactic core," added General Sam Carter. "Long-range sensors detect massive energy buildups in sectors we've never explored." Emperor Valdris appeared as a hologram at the conference table. His crystalline form was brighter than usual, reflecting his concern. "Admiral Morrison, the Empire is placing its full resources at your disposal, but we must act quickly." Jake studied the star charts showing Void Hunter movements. The pattern was becoming clear. The enemy was not just retreating. They were preparing for something much larger than individual system attacks. "They're building something," Jake realized. "All these energy readings, the movement patterns, they're constructing some kind of massive weapon." Ryan Bell nodded from his position at the engineering station. "The quantum signatures support that theory. Whatever they're building, it's using dimensional technology on a scale we've never seen." "Can we stop it?" asked Admiral Zethkar, who had become Jake's closest alien ally. "First we have to find it," Elena said. "The galactic core is largely unexplored. There could be hundreds of hidden systems where they're working." Jake made a decision that would define humanity's role in the galaxy. "Then we go exploring. We take the combined fleet and find their base of operations." The expedition that left Imperial space 2 weeks later was the largest in galactic history, 500 ships from 20 different species, led by human officers using human tactics. Jake had never imagined commanding such a force when he was exploring distant systems just months ago. The journey to the galactic core took 3 weeks. As they traveled, human and alien crews worked together to refine their quantum weapons. Dr. Marcus Webb established medical protocols for treating dimensional exposure. Lisa Park created communication systems that could work across multiple realities. "Admiral," called Commander Brad Newman from the tactical station. Brad was a young officer who had proven himself during the Vega 7 battle. "We're approaching the coordinates where intelligence detected the energy buildups." Jake moved to the main display. What he saw there made him understand why the Empire had never explored this region. "Quantum storms," Elena whispered. "The entire area is filled with dimensional instabilities. Space itself was twisted in impossible ways. Stars appeared and disappeared as reality shifted around them. Gravity worked differently in some areas while time seemed to flow backward in others. No wonder the Empire never came here," Admiral Zethkar observed. "Their ships could never survive these conditions. But ours can," Jake realized. "Human quantum technology is designed to work with dimensional instabilities, not avoid them." They pressed deeper into the quantum storm region. Imperial ships struggled with the dimensional effects, but human vessels moved through the chaos like they belonged there. Jake began to understand why humanity had developed such unusual technology. They had evolved on a world where the impossible happened regularly. "Contact," Brad announced suddenly. Multiple ships bearing 27 Mark IV. The Void Hunter fleet was massive. Hundreds of ships moved through the dimensional storms without any apparent difficulty, but these were different from the vessels they had fought before. These ships were larger, more solid, as if they had been pulled entirely into normal space. "They're not phasing," Elena observed. "Something is keeping them locked in our dimension." "There," Ryan pointed to the center of the enemy formation. "That's what they've been building." The device was impossible to describe in normal terms. It existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, a structure that hurt to look at directly, Energy patterns flowed through it like blood through veins, and space itself seemed to bend around its presence. "What is it?" asked Admiral Krendall over the communication system. Elena ran every scan she could think of. "It's a dimensional anchor. They're using it to stabilize themselves in our reality, while simultaneously tearing holes to other dimensions." "For what purpose?" Emperor Valdris asked from his distant throne room. Jake felt cold understanding wash over him. "They're trying to merge realities. If they succeed, our entire universe will be pulled into their dimension." The implications were terrifying. Every world, every species, every star would be consumed by an alien reality where different physical laws applied. Nothing from their universe would survive the transition. "All ships prepare for battle," Jake announced. "We have to destroy that device before they complete the dimensional merger." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Void Hunter ships fought with desperate fury while Imperial and human vessels worked together to reach the dimensional anchor. Quantum weapons fired across multiple realities while conventional missiles sought targets that shifted between dimensions. "The anchor is protected by quantum shields," Elena reported. "Our weapons can't penetrate them." Jake watched the tactical display as ship after ship tried to break through the enemy defenses. The Void Hunters had learned from their previous defeats. Their new ships could resist quantum disruption and fight effectively in normal space. "Admiral," Brad called out, "we're losing ships faster than we can advance. The enemy defenses are too strong." Jake realized that conventional tactics would not work. They needed to think like humans, not like Imperial military commanders. "All ships withdraw to minimum safe distance," Jake ordered. "Admiral?" Admiral Zethkar sounded confused. "Are we retreating?" "No," Jake said. "We're changing the rules." He turned to Ryan. "Can you overload our quantum drive? Create a dimensional cascade that would destabilize the entire region?" Ryan's eyes widened. "Yes, but it would destroy our ship. And probably tear a hole in space-time that could never be repaired." "What about the enemy device? If the cascade reached it, the dimensional anchor would be completely disrupted." "But Admiral, the explosion would be visible from the other side of the galaxy." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were human and alien, working together in ways that had seemed impossible just months ago. They represented the best of both species, combining human innovation with Imperial resources. "Elena, can you calculate the cascade effects? Make sure it only affects this region?" Elena's fingers danced across her controls. "It's possible. If we tune the quantum frequencies correctly, we can contain the cascade within the storm region." "Do it," Jake ordered. The Horizon moved toward the dimensional anchor while the rest of the fleet provided cover. Void Hunter ships swarmed around them, but human tactics and Imperial firepower carved a path through the enemy formation. "Quantum drive overload in 60 seconds, Ryan announced. "All ships, maximum withdrawal," Jake ordered over the communication system. "We're about to create a very large explosion." Emperor Valdris's voice came through clearly despite the dimensional interference. "Admiral Morrison, your sacrifice will be remembered throughout galactic history." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Jake replied. "But I'm not planning to die today." He turned to Elena. "Are the escape pod systems ready?" Elena smiled. "Modified with quantum drives. We'll phase out of normal space just before the cascade reaches critical mass." "All hands prepare for emergency evacuation," Jake announced to his crew. The next few minutes were chaos. The Horizon's crew evacuated in quantum-enhanced escape pods while the ship continued its approach to the dimensional anchor. Void Hunter ships tried to stop them, but human stubbornness proved stronger than alien weapons. "Cascade initiated," Ryan announced from his escape pod. "Dimensional anchor destruction in 3, 2, 1. The explosion was visible from the other side of the galaxy. Quantum energy cascaded through multiple dimensions, tearing apart the Void Hunter device and collapsing the dimensional storms. When the light faded, the entire region had returned to normal space. The surviving Void Hunter ships vanished immediately, retreating to whatever reality they had come from. Long-range sensors confirmed that their dimensional intrusions throughout Imperial space had ceased. "Victory," Emperor Valdris announced when the fleet returned to Thys Prime. "The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid." The ceremony that followed was attended by representatives from every world in the Empire. Jake found himself standing before the same throne room where he had first met the Emperor, but everything had changed. "Admiral Morrison," the Emperor said, By decree of the Galactic Council, humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Empire as an equal partner. The alien audience cheered in a dozen different ways. Jake felt proud and humble at the same time. Furthermore, the Emperor continued, Earth shall become the center of a new exploration division, dedicated to discovering what lies beyond our current borders. Jake realized that this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven itself capable of surviving in a galaxy full of wonders and dangers. Now they would help lead the Empire into